Hey guys, so I'm excited because we are going to do a pour today. It's been a little bit since we've done one because, winter, and the craft space is not always the warmest. We'll say it's a little chilly out, but I've been running my heater in this space for a little while now. So I feel pretty confident that it's warm enough in here for me to proceed with this pour. And now that I've warmed up this room, I think it's plenty sufficient. I was looking. I had tape. Oh, there it is. I was like, I have tape somewhere. Because my mold is a smidge dirty, so I do want to just run my tape through it before we get going too far. And then we're going to get our resin mixed pretty quickly. I have my glove on already because the edges of my bottles are a little sticky, and I didn't want to get resin all over me. So yeah, put the glove on. And I'm just going around this, make sure that I pick up anything. Everything I'm seeing now is all on the underside, so that's really all we need to do. A little bit of tape did the trick. Alright, so we are going to use Counterculture DIY Artist Resin, their thin viscosity solution. We are going to mix up, I'm going to say 80 of each part, A and B, for us, so that we have more than enough to do this. We'll probably have more than enough to pour into something else, but at least we'll get this part done. This one completely done. So when I'm doing a bigger batch like this, I don't worry about which one I pour into these cups first because we're not mixing yet. So I started with A. Normally I will pour B first, especially if I'm mixing in the same cup. And you'll notice when we transfer to my bigger cup, I will pour B first. And I'll explain that in a minute. My B is a little bit yellow. It's fine. It's going to get mixed up clear. Also, we're going to be adding so much colorant to this fun little trinket dish that we're doing that I am not worried about it. If you're really going for mostly clear resin, I maybe wouldn't use my yellow batch, but where we are going to add colorant, we are fine. I have a little bit more B in here than I want. I might have went too low. Okay, that is sufficient. So I try to get my lids back on as quickly as possible, just so that there's not any, it prevents the air from making as much contact, and that will help with the yellowing. Slowing that down a smidge. Okay, so I have a bigger cup that we're going to transfer this into. What is in that cup though? Okay. So I am going to transfer B in first. B is more fluid. B is thinner than A. A is the hardener, at least with this resin. This is a 1-to-1 ratio. If you haven't watched previous tutorials by me, I try to give you all the details, even in every video that I do, just so that you can literally start with whatever series, whatever one interests you the most, basically. Okay. And this is just a plastic popsicle stick, and I love them. So B is definitely thinner than A. So it's almost like the B coats the bottom before we pour A in, and then A is going to sink into the B, and the B is essentially going around the A. It's all going to get mixed evenly, but it does help the mixing process, I have found. I tell people, do though what works for you. Try it both ways, see what you like better. I did that in the beginning. when I first started working with resin, and I learned very quickly that I liked what another artist had done, which was do B first and then A. I am trying to get as much as I can on the edges. One, to not waste resin, not to leave any behind, but also because we want that even measurement. Alright, so I have a mixing tool here. This baby's going to help us mix this resin. It probably won't get it fully done, but it does save my wrist quite a bit. So we put this in here. I have it plugged directly into an outlet. This mixer can be found at Hobby Lobby. It has to be plugged into a outlet directly. I'm sure it's like a heater. You know, it could short out your what do I want to call it, your power strip. So it is plugged into an outlet directly, and it's just going to spin, and it helps scrape that. Now it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to get fully up to the edge. That's fine, because I'm going to do a little hand mixing before we fully let it go. So I like to mix for about 3 minutes, which that's why I say it saves my wrist, because Lord have mercy, spinning or hand mixing that for 3 minutes, my wrists get tired. I go both directions when I'm mixing, and you'll see that when I do the hand on it. I am going to move this back up to where it's out of our way so that we can do a little prepping, essentially. So it's up on a little shelf thing that I have, and then we can prep our space. If y'all recall our little duds that we had for earrings, we're going to use those. I'm just going to make sure that my level table is still relatively level, and it is. Look how messy this silicone piece is. I have to clean that soon, but you know, we're not worried about it. My rubbing alcohol is basically out in this bottle. I love this Equate bottle, but I'll tell you what, you can get this on Amazon for super duper cheap. I have it on the subscribe and save, but I've only ever had to have one box come to me. I've never used them all. Now I will tell you I need to get another one on its way soonish, because this is like my third to last bottle of it. I think this will hold almost 2 bottles, maybe just a smidge less than 2. It's a pretty nice little deal that I like. And I'm not worried about spilling it on here, because I'll use it to wipe that off a little. They do have this on. I had opened that other one already. Your little metal pieces of these are great for getting those started. That was a very full bottle. As soon as I started squeezing it, I was like, oh, we're coming to the top. These don't have a good spout from Amazon, which is why I don't love them. Which is why I'm keeping my Equate bottle until, heaven forbid, it gets a hole in it. The outside of the bottle is kind of gross, but I could care less because it has the best spout. We're gonna get 2 bottles in. Perfect. I was gonna say I'm gonna have to put it in my little spray bottle. If not. Okay, so now we've got our rubbing alcohol ready, which we want. And it's been about 3 minutes since we started spinning that resin. I'm just going to wipe this off a smidge. Not that it's going to make much difference. Doesn't really matter. Let's turn this bubba off. And twist this just a smidge. Enough to get our thing out. It does like to suction your cup to the bottom of that. There are bubbles. I'm not really worried based on what we're going to be doing. I am going to mix this up. I am scraping the edge, and I am making sure I'm all the way at the bottom as well. I do like to scrape my tool as well. This is a silicone star stick. It came with the mixer. It's designed for the mixer, and it is reusable. I love anything that's reusable. Same thing with the silicone cups. They are reusable. Alright, so we are going to pop this down a couple times. See bubbles coming up? That just helps these bubbles pull from the bottom and come to the top. You might not have been able to see it because just the way everything is, but it was a pretty big bubble. Now, we are going to do some different colors, and we're going to add stones to this, and we're going to make it kind of fun. Not kind of fun, we're going to make it really fun, y'all. Like, hello. So, I'm just thinking here. Yeah, I didn't really come in with like, this is the game plan kind of thing. It was more of, oh, let's do this. I'm going to do this. And then I didn't really have a full-on game plan, but we're going to bring it all together. I want that to rest just a little bit, which is why we're letting it sit. Reason for that is it just needs to set itself up a little bit and become a little bit thicker before I start pouring. I find that gives a little bit better, for me, gives me a little bit better of a thickness and allows me to manipulate the resin more the way I like. So that's why I'm not like, oh, as soon as we mixed it, we gotta work it. Yes, you are on a clock when you are working with resin. And I think I started to say, I apologize, my ADHD is rampant, so if I am ping-ponging, I apologize. Just try to keep up, I guess. I think I was saying that it is a 1-to-1 ratio, meaning it's the same measurement, 1-to-1, not weight, because A and B do weigh different. So make sure to read your resin, what type of resin you're using, read the instructions. Don't just assume what I'm telling you is what your resin is, okay? With that said, I have found if we let this resin set for just a smidge, it does help us in how we want to manipulate it. So that is why I do mine the way I'm doing it. So I'm grabbing some alcohol inks because I know that I'm going to want some. And the gold especially gets separated, so I am shaking that up. We're going to use some of these. We are going to use some of these. We'll probably throw in a little bit of glitter, maybe some of our thicker. This is a Lucky Charm. I feel like that's appropriate. So, you know, that's going to get a Mod Podge of stuff, right? Let's see. Okay, I need about another minute for that, just to mix up or set up. Now, I'm going to use some paper cups. I like using things that are reusable by far. However, I will tell you, when you're using alcohol inks, having a paper cup just saves. It ends up that then your stuff isn't all like dirty and gross, get tinted in color. I mean, I know it's just it's a weird thing that I have, okay? I just don't like my silicone cups to get colored. And so I have found the best way to avoid that is to use a paper cup. And glitter, truthfully, just because glitter is kind of a pain to clean out of a silicone cup, I would suggest do glitter in a paper cup as well. It's just easier in the long run. Alright, I'm going to plug in our little heat gun because I'm going to show y'all these bubbles here at the top. We're going to hit this just lightly with a little bit of heat just to pop those bubbles. I might turn on our flash too so that maybe you can see a little bit better. Hang on just a second. When I have a spare hand, you know, one of my 10 to 15 hands here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. I think that will allow you to see just a smidge better. There's still a lot of micro bubbles. I'm not overly worried because we're going to be adding colorings, glitter, things of that nature. That's fine. All right. So I'm just going to put a bunch of clear in one. Okay, and I'll show you why. And I'm going to put, that's going to be our alcohol ink. It's going to be alcohol ink as well, potentially. And then I'll probably just leave the rest in here. Let us kind of figure this out. I am going to go ahead and pour, actually, before I do that, I saw a trick and I haven't tried it, so we're going to experiment. This has rubbing alcohol in it too. I have heard if you spray the mold first, that this will help bubbles in like these edges that tend to get bubbles. So we're going to try it. We're going to see if we like that or not. We'll see. But I am going to put just a little bit of clear in because I want to give a little bit of definition. I want my color to sort of mingle and stand out. Okay. Oh, and I said I'm going to do this alcohol. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that with mica powder. I was like, I totally lost it, y'all. See? ADHD at its finest. I swear. Okay. So, let's do a little mixing. Now, when we mix colors in, that is when our resin is going to start heating up and start curing a lot faster. So I definitely don't mix my colors in until I'm at this stage, because if I were to have already separated my resin and then mix my colors and let it set, we would probably end up with a flash cure, and we absolutely do not want that. Flash cure is where it's going to heat up so fast and start having a reaction so fast that ultimately you can start a fire. It will start smoking. It's really bad for you to breathe. We're working with chemicals, y'all, so you just got to be very conscientious of that. Okay, so mixing the powder. With powder, you got to make sure, one, that the powder is, like, the colorant gets mixed with all parts of the resin, but two, that you don't end up with a powdery strip. Kind of like when you're baking a cake, you could end up with a strip of flour, and that's gross. People don't want to have flour. So I'm just putting, that is a Kelly green. Oh, I didn't tell y'all. This is apple green. This is a thermo psychedelic. It's a pretty cool one. It kind of changes in the light. And this one is neon green. I'm just trying to get kind of a fun green happening. And you can see that alcohol ink sitting on top of the resin, so we got to get it mixed in. Now, alcohol ink is lighter than your mica, so you want to think about that your mica is going to go mica will sink more. So you just want to be aware of that, because you want to understand that the alcohol ink is lighter, so it will tend to get kind of lost if you're not careful. I'm going to go ahead and throw in a few sprinkles because I want some of these to end up in our edges. And as you can see, I'm not being like particular. I do want to get another rainbow over here though. Let's throw a few more over there. Okay. Just trying to get a nice little, I'm hoping those are going to go more down in the piece here as we start going down. All of our bubbles are coming to the surface too, which is great. And again, I'm not, like, as you see, I'm not pushing this down into the sides. I'm letting it naturally just flow. However it wants to take itself down into those sides. That's what I want it to do. When we add the clear, as you can see, I am making a clear path. Now in our center, I'm pushing our colorants and our sprinkles more to the edges because I want somewhat of a clear in here because we want to be able to add our little clovers. Now remember, you are working upside down. So the part that people are going to see is underneath. So if you notice how I laid that, it is going where the person from underneath is going to see it. I'm going to actually move one of these because I don't want them to be side by side. And I lost my paper towel. Wipe my gloves. Okay. I just keep a paper towel nearby to wipe my gloves when I dip in to the resin. There's one more over here. Yep. So, and then I'm going to add a few of these, and then we're going to add some of our glitter in there. That's going to be all fun. Why can't I open these? Let's get a pair of scissors. A pair of scissors will help us open these. See, these are fun. Sorry, my nose is... The weather here has just been absurd. Let's just call it what it is. One day it's hot, one day it's cold, the next day it's warm again. We don't know what we're doing in Kentucky. Like, you know, I'm just gonna say it. We don't know what we are up to these days. We're just randomly putting these. I'm trying to not think too hard, and I just was turning that one so the stem was going a different direction just so it doesn't look like I placed them specifically there or in a certain way. I wanted to make sure that I just naturally have these kind of sit in here. And they're pretty heavy, so they should kind of go to the bottom, although that one is trying to be more above, and I don't want it to be. Okay, I think that was a cute way to use those. I like it. Okay, let's, it's a pretty big thing to just sprinkle from, so I am going to just hand sprinkle some of this green. This is like a stone mica. Yeah, they call this a stone mica. It's by Counterculture DIY. I like them because it gives it more of a natural kind of feel. Plus this is Lucky Charm, so I feel like it's perfect. Speaking of Lucky Charms, or Lucky Charm, who loves the Lucky Charm cereal? That was my go-to as a kid. For sure. Okay, let's put our alcohol ink in. And I'm not going in with any particular pattern. Okay? We are just cruising with it. Now this I have a better like opening, so I'm going to just, glitter should in theory sort of sink, but where we're doing it as a layer, it's probably not going to sink as much. It's going to stay more to the back, which is fine. I'm good with that. And as you see, I'm just kind of, we're getting our colors in here. We're just getting some lines. We're going to definitely fill this mold, which is fantastic because I did not want to have to do a second pour on it. I'm going to go ahead. No, a little bit of this fine. Let's just add a little bit of this. You know, it's like a concoction here. We're just adding a little bit of everything. We're going to put a gold layer on the back of this. So that's fine. Just normally I might mix my glitter with a little bit of resin and then pour it in. I'm just not doing that tonight. We are just going to have fun with it. But you see how the resin is separating that. That's why I normally would probably do that. Okay, this is relatively full. You don't want to overflow your piece by any means. So I'm going to hit it with just a smidge of heat just to pop any bubbles that have come up, blow glitter all over the workspace. Because, you know, why not? As you see, as you put heat on it, and it's glowing, obviously, but this is on low. But as you put heat on it, this does heat the resin up, and it makes it more fluid. So again, just knowing how the resin is going to react is key. I am going to push my sides a little bit. Reason for that is I just want to ensure if there is an air pocket or an air bubble that it just decides that it should come to the surface. I see one over here coming. But if there was like a big one, I want it to come. Plus this is going to help kind of move that resin, make it give a fun, unique look, which is why we did the clear first, because that helps give us some definition, so forth. Okay, we're going to hit. And normally, if I didn't have so much resin in it, I would pick it up and let it slap down on the table to, you know, really work those bubbles up. But this is pretty full, and honestly speaking, pretty full. And I'm afraid because of the length of it, I couldn't hold it properly to ensure that when I lift it, that I wouldn't just have resin go literally everywhere. And I would like to avoid that. There's a string of micro bubbles over here. It's like a whole little family string of them. So we're going to take a silicone brush. I would not take anything sharp because you would scratch your mold. But a silicone brush is just fine. Just to kind of break them bubbles up. Bring them more to the surface. You can even just pull them out. You're not wasting a ton of resin if you do that, just to get those out of there. Loving this. Now, if you wanted, you could add kind of like, you could sit here and, you know, do some swirls and so forth. I'm not going really into the surface of this, so it's not going to show the swirls. And we're going to end up covering this here. I'm going to show you. Mix up our gold again. I am going to take gold. I love how gold alcohol ink reacts to resin. It just is so fun to me. And I'm just, you know, hitting these. Now, I will say, the more you add, the more it is going to potentially thin your resin out and potentially not cure as well. So, kind of want to do it sparingly, even though I know I was going a little bit on the cray-cray side with it, but that's okay. I'm trying to basically give us a gold bottom without having to paint it or pour a gold layer. And I didn't want to mix it with the resin and then pour it in there, because ultimately, there's like colorant powder. Ultimately, what would have transpired if I had done that is, one, we'd have too much, but then we wouldn't get some of this fun reaction on the bottom too. So that's just what I opted for. But do what makes y'all happy. And I'm just hitting with a little bit of heat just to, again, move that around a little. Kind of have some fun with it. I'm going to go ahead and mix it just a smidge. I'm going to show you what I mean. What I want. Okay, so this one has kind of a tip on it. Now, it is silicone, so again, it's not going to damage my mold. Plus, I'm not going to be putting this in very far, okay? All I'm going to do is, where this gold is, I'm just going to do some little swirl loops so that we have some swirlies back here. Now I can see that this is starting to thicken, which is good. That's what we want the resin to do. But as it gets thicker like that, it can get, those big chunks are in there. Just trying to keep them down. As it thickens like this, you could end up, sorry, I just had an alert from my bank and I was like, what is happening? As it thickens, how many times can I start this? Basically, as it begins to cure and it does get thickened like this, it can become very, very sticky and goopy and absolutely horrid to work with. So just know that that can happen and you don't want it to, so just be aware of that. Once it starts to thicken like that, you don't want to deal with it. You just want to let it do its thing. I'm gonna, probably for worse, add just a smidge more resin in here. And why I say worse is it could mess with how I like the back here, but so far it's fine. I'm just doing very thin markings. Okay, we are going to do 0 more to that. No more. No more, no more, no more. What do I want? Yeah. Of course I didn't grab backup mold for this part. So let's see what we want. What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? Let's try. Oh, this would be pretty. We got greens and stuff going. So this would be pretty. We won't add the clovers and things in. This is a pretty leaf mold. So here's the trick that we've got. A little conundrum. Here we have a tight space. So we're going to do a little shimmying. Now be very careful if you're going to move your piece after you pour it, because you don't want to mess up what you got. Okay? So now we have this piece, and you got to be careful if you're pouring into this piece that we don't mess up the piece that we've already poured by accidentally either dropping some of this in, whatever it may be. I'm going to go ahead and give that one a little bit more. We'll add more color into it as well. I'm not done. I'll add a little more here. Now, if you feel as you are pouring these, or if you pick up your paper cups and you're like, man, that's getting hot, that's kind of your signal. Like, even if it's just a little bit warm, it's your signal that your time is limited. Again, resin does have a time limit. Some people have it down to the science. I really tried to keep like a timer once. I don't do well with that. It's probably my ADHD that doesn't do well with that. That just mindset doesn't do super well. Not saying that as an excuse. It just, I've learned that that really doesn't work for me. The parts that I focus on are, hey, I'm going to pour it, and then I'm going to mix it for 3 minutes. And then I'm going to make sure it's fully mixed. And then once I've done that, I'm going to let it set for 5. That is what I have found. If I am doing coasters, I am very diligent about making sure that then I let them sit another 5 minutes before, or like once I pour the clear, I let that sit for 5 minutes before I start doing anything else. And that is just what I have found works the best. They pack these jars so full, which is fantastic. Like, you definitely get your money's worth. But it can make it a little challenging to get it out. And the reason why we're going to do this, like, why would we waste perfectly good resin? This resin's still great. That's still going to work. Just because we finished one piece doesn't mean we can't start another. Like, let's roll, y'all. I'm going to actually try like 5 drops directly in. Oh, I might have went a little crazy there, but that's okay. That's cool. I'm only going to do 3 of that one. Alright, just for fun. It might stain the mold. I might regret that when I unmold it, but that's life. It won't affect the next pour. Now I can feel, even through my gloves, that this resin is getting warm. It's not hot. It's just definitely a noticeable warm. Okay. So again, definitely time. And as you see, I'm doing kind of a crisscross pattern. You can do that to just really help distribute the resin. This mold, where I'm pouring it at, is pretty centered right there. And so it's pretty well evenly distributing it. These are little silicone stir sticks that I'm using to mix the colorants in. Counterculture DIY. I cannot say enough good about them. They are a small business that have really done amazing at creating phenomenal product that everyday artists love to use. So check them out if you haven't, because they're awesome. You can see that cup is stained on the side, which is why I don't like to do it in a silicone cup. Just because that was pretty empty. I always stack my paper cups anyway, so I just went ahead and threw the mica one right on inside of it, because it's not going to matter. I noticed some bubbles, but I'm hoping they're going to come to the surface here momentarily. And whoa, we are filling that mold. So I gotta slow down on that pour, because that got full really fast. Now you can measure what it's going to take to do your mold. I've seen people use rice, just grains of rice in their mold to, you know, see how big it's going to be and how much it's going to hold. That's perfectly fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. I would tell you, I've also heard people just putting water in it, and I have done the water thing before. Again, knowing the exact amount of resin I use, I don't know if it's like it just doesn't work for my brain. It's like, I don't know if it stresses me out. It's not anything stressful about it. It's just, I tend to just kind of free fall, which is so against my normal, like, current of and everything, because I like stability. I like, you know, consistency. I don't like abnormal. I like clean. But something about it, getting the measurements just has not worked out really well for me. It's just too much of a pain or something. So I just kind of eyeball it, and then typically I mix more than I probably would need, as you can see. And then I do this. I create chaos, which is hilarious because, again, I don't love chaos. But when this is like my freedom spot, I think. So it's like, I get in here and I just am like, okay, this is where I don't have to be clean. This is where I don't have to follow a rule book. This is where I can be my most creative self. And I think that's what I end up doing. And I come up with some pretty amazing creations. Obviously, I do have to, follow the rules of resin. Obviously, you can't just full on wing it, because you gotta follow those rules of the resin. This is getting really sticky, not so fluid. I am gonna throw a little heat on it just to try to get it a smidge more fluid. Yes, I'm gonna pop these bubbles. Okay. I don't know if I really want this mold, so I shoulda, woulda, coulda. Yeah, a little bit more prepared, but that's okay. Again, this is where I get to wing it, y'all. Get to have a little fun and just make it happen. These were in a drawer, so they should be pretty clean-ish, I say. So I'm, risking a little bit by just pouring directly in and not really cleaning the molds, but it's okay. These are really thin, by the way. Probably not the most ideal mold to be pouring into. I'm going to go ahead and just finish off with these ones. These are a nice size. Nice thickness. We're getting messy. And sometimes that gives me a little bit of anxiety, getting all over the molds and stuff. But you know what? It always works out. It always cleans right up when I unmold it. So I don't know why I let that kind of get to me, but it does. It does a smidge, It's just our little things. But I love crafting. Like, this is my happy space. If I literally could do this all day, every day, all day, I guess probably I would get bored. Reality being, but here's what I would say, is I have a collection of crafts and craft supplies. So I would probably just bounce between, one day I'd be doing this, one day I'd be doing that, and kind of all over the place. Alright, paper cups, they're going to get tossed. They are not going to be saved. We are not attempting that. So they go right in the garbage, basically. Or you could let them harden and then throw them in there. You'll notice my table is covered in silicone. Has a Counterculture DIY silicone mat. Best thing to have, because, let's be real, resin is everywhere. And it's sticky. Especially at this phase. Okay, we got some bubbles, and I want to get this moved around. Hopefully. It might be done. Might be done moving. It sure could be. We'll see if we can entice it here a little. Let's see, I want this thin one. Here's a bubble. And these, I just I'm trying to make sure that because it's getting so tacky, you're gonna probably trap bubbles more likely to trap bubbles. And I'm probably gonna just go ahead and use a little bit of rubbing alcohol to spritz on top and try to pop some of those. It's almost like it made itself a little edge there that it wasn't wanting to bring itself up and around that. But now that we've opened that up, this one's doing better. This one I have a little more resin in it than I would maybe like, but I think if I try to move any, we're just gonna make a hot mess, but we're gonna do it. This one could use a little more, so let's just bring that over to the hot mess, right? Right. I'm just gonna scoop some of that out. But then I created a bubble in there. Come on, bubble. Come on. Oh yeah, we're getting sticky. Sticky. Okay. Let's just use our brush to move that. Let's take a spritz. Now, anytime you spritz alcohol, look at that, how it's reacting. And it's making the glitter pop up a little more. Just be aware of that. If that's not the look you're wanting, don't spritz. Now, you'll notice that I'm only using the silicone side of this tool. I am not using the side that has the metal part, even though it would be helpful probably to pop these bubbles. Reason for that is I do not want to scratch my mold whatsoever. So by not using that middle side, I'm ensuring that I'm not going to leave a mark in my mold that I'm going to regret having. Now, resin does pull to the center. Just want y'all to know. I'm going to just draw this so y'all can see in here and see how that pulls. That's going to ultimately, we might see a little bit of that design, but it's going to pull itself still to the center. This will ultimately pull itself more to the center as well. And the gold might, it's potential that that gold just creates like a line in the center. Could happen. We don't know. Don't know till we see. All right. We got kind of a hot mess going with our tools and everything. Now, resin on our silicone is going to cure and should peel right off. I do have a little tick about this that I like have to wipe up any resin that I can off of the mat. I don't know why. I don't like trying to peel cured resin off of my silicone mat. I don't know why. Sometimes it's satisfying, sometimes not so much. So I just go around with a paper towel and a little bit of rubbing alcohol on it, and I just wipe up what I can. And then it makes my cleanup a smidge easier. Maybe not. I don't know. Now this is trying to come out. I'll just wipe that off. We can clean these up once they're cured. It's not going to be the end of the world, but if you can not have a lot of overflow or, you know, coming out of these molds, the better. All right. So, thing I have found that is fantastic when you have resin curing, you want to protect it from any little things flying around, you know, dust particles, so forth. These food nets are the best. So I used to use a tote. Tote was great. Tote served wonderful purpose for many pours. However, it's hard to access and get a tote on top and make room on my space for a tote to sit and block it. So, and I always would get worried about it having enough airflow. So these little nets are my go-to. And don't mind me, I am left-hand, which I am righty for sure, but I do a lot with my left. I'm just trying to clear enough space to move this over to the side, this other part of my desk that has silicone still on it, so that it's sitting on there, so that I can then cover it, and then, okay. Left-handed, did not drop it, good deal. Alright, I want to be able to show y'all how to clean our things, but I want to get these covered. That's great if you can get the net. Okay, it's over enough that I think it will be fine. Alright, and I will keep this door shut tonight in this room so that none of my four-legged friends can be in here, and one, they don't need to smell the chemicals. It's not good for them. Two, they don't try to mess with stuff. Alright, so this is the one that I was using to clean up over there. I will use it to get like our first round. Now I did pour some rubbing alcohol directly into it. And that just helps get that started. That rubbing alcohol is going to break down the resin and be able to wipe it out. Some, because it is silicone, it is going to cure as long as it's the one that you did A and B in. Now, if these ones that we only did part A or part B, whichever, I don't know which was which, doesn't matter, they're not going to cure. They're going to stay tacky. So you have to do this with them. But on the ones that are going to cure up, you could just turn it upside down, let it on your silicone mat, let it just pour out, and eventually it should just cure and you should be able to pull it directly out. Reason why I don't do that personally, and this is just a personal preference, but the reason why I don't do that is because I scrape my silicone cups so much with my stir sticks that a lot of times, and I work the resin to where it's pretty tacky like it was getting really sticky. It then doesn't pour out very well, and then you have like this very thin layer of resin, and it is a pain to get off of silicone, and I don't like that. I want convenience, I want easy. This is my least favorite part, is cleaning everything, but this is what I have found works the best for me and for my attention span, my brain, and everything. It just seems to work the best. You'll notice I am still using, I poured some on this and I cleaned both those to clean this. Now this isn't done. These probably need another wipe out. But that's just how I kind of keep doing it. So see why I love that spout. I just make sure that I get them all the way, round and round. I clean my edges. Rubbing alcohol can just air dry, and these will be all beautiful for the next pour. And then I'm not trying to clean out after it's cured. It's just, like I said, it's just what I have found works. I did try it the other way, just like I tried putting A in first and then mixing B in. I just didn't like it as well. I have found that this is the rhythm for me. And then same thing with our tools. It's just wiping them down and getting that resin off. It's just, for me, it gives me a cleaner tool, more long lasting. If I'm having to, scrape off a thin layer of cured resin, it just doesn't work. Now, will these sometimes end up with a thin layer of resin? Yeah. But as long as they're relatively clean, like these look dirty, that is cured resin on there. I'm not worried about this part. This is the part that I'm really worried about. So that's what I focus on. And on that silicone part, once it cures, it should just kind of peel off with a gentle encouragement. Silicone does dry out, or can dry out. I know we didn't use this one for this project, but I used it for a UV resin, and it's still sticky. And see, I didn't clean it because it slipped under my table. And it's like somewhat sticky, but then also has some cured, and it's not coming off very well. These were our initial stirring things. So wipe them down. And I'll wipe my mat over there too. But while I have one that's semi-used, that's what I like to get as much of that up as I can. Sorry, I'm shaking y'all probably, but I'm trying to get that up and off. Okay, paper towels, I go through like nobody's business. Rubbing alcohol. Those are like my super used items that I use freely, I would say. And when I first started resin, like, I mixed in disposable cups. But I didn't love that. I just felt like a lot sticks to the edges, and so over time I have learned what I like and what works for me. So also read the directions on your resin. Make sure you know that you are working with a chemical. I have an air purifier going while I'm working in this space, and I'll keep it on for quite a while here. These are going to cure overnight. Unless I'm reshaping something or manipulating the resin in some way, I like to pour at night. Here's why. When I pour during the day, I am more likely to come check it and mess with it. And that is a no-go for resin. So again, play into your strengths and your weaknesses. And my weaknesses is that I want to then look at it, and if I see a bubble, I'm going to try to pop it, even if the resin is pretty well cured and not poppable, and then I make it worse. So, or I've had things curing and messed up the curing process because I decided I would mess with it. It's not worth it. So for me, pour at night, unmold the next day. Those will be nice and solid when I wake up, and then I'm not tempted to come check them. Will tell you, when I first poured at nighttime, there was a couple times I'd sneak back into the craft space and check them, but I've gotten much better about that because I know that it's not going to help. This is paint. This blue is paint. I was painting over here, painting a wood project, and so it's definitely got that on there, but that rubbing alcohol is going to slowly pull that up. And if I didn't have you on video and worried about full on bouncing you, I would sit here with some elbow grease and just get it all up and off. But, you know, we'll just do a little bit while we're here. So, don't touch them. I say probably 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours. Truthfully, I'll look at these in the morning, but I'm not going to actually unmold them until I can on video. In the mornings, I just don't have time for that. So I will have to wait until evening time that I can come in here and video and unmold them. It's kind of exciting. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. This was an older one. Okay. Kind of exciting we didn't have one that's like going to roll over to another series, which is kind of unusual for us. So, kind of worked out that I didn't measure, and we ended up with some cool pieces, hopefully. Alright. Well, my hands are very sweaty, so trying to get out of my gloves, kind of gross. I don't have a sink in here, but I have some resin remover, like hand sanitizer stuff. So I rub that on just so that I'm not super sticky before I head out of the space. And then I'll go full on wash my hands with soap and water. Do not pour your resin in the sink. Don't wash these in the sink. Just don't. That resin is going to cure. Remember, it's going to come a hard solid. So your plumber will thank you. But yeah, read everything. Know what you're getting into. And then have fun with it, because that's the most important. Hope y'all are enjoying. I will be back next week to have the demolding and get to show what fun creations we made and put these earrings together and pieces together and just do the whole cleanup. I want you guys to see that process. So I hope to see you again soon. Have a good night. Bye.